Okay, so then we have the rhetorical term of the day, which is rhetorical device. This is actually a category that we're going to spend a lot of time going through particulars of. Do you guys, have you learned about rhetorical devices before? Yeah. Do you?
Alliteration.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Good. So, anyone want to try to define it? This is hard to define. Yeah. Good. Okay. Good. So that's a fair definition. Yeah. A specific use of language intended to have an effect on the audience. And examples. You mentioned alliteration, right? What are some other examples of rhetorical devices?
Yeah.
Hyperbole. Yeah. Antithesis.
Oh, chiasmus.
Yeah, chiasmus, right? So metaphor, allusion, personification, repetition, juxtaposition, hyperbole, irony. So we're gonna go through all of these eventually, okay? Yeah, so this is like just the general category. All right, now we're gonna introduce a new daily routine, okay? Which I call, oh, sorry. Oh, I forgot I added this note. You should know it now. Ethos, pathos, and logos are not rhetorical devices. They are appeals, meaning they are categorical ways of persuading someone. They're not, devices specifically mean a specific use of language. Okay, appeals are a different category, and that distinction will become clearer as we go. All right, daily English error. Okay, so there are gonna be two ways. So part of English and part of this class is learning proper grammar, right? Or like stylistic conventions about like how to use punctuation, how to use capitalization. You're gonna learn this through, I'm not gonna teach this as a main part of the lesson. You're gonna learn about English, about grammar through two ways. One is my feedback, okay? When we do essays where there are multiple drafts, I will point out grammatical errors. The other is each day we'll go over one grammatical error or English error, and I will try to do ones that are very common, okay? This one happens to be, I wouldn't have done this one today if one person in the class made it, but two people in the class made this error in their homework, okay? And most of the time I'm very compassionate about people who make errors. This one is a pet peeve of mine, okay? So I'm gonna go on a rant after I show you the error, okay? And I'm not picking on the particular people who did this. I don't even remember who did this, okay? But I'll tell you, it has nothing to do with intelligence. It has nothing to do with how well read you are. I've seen people who can write beautifully. You leaving?
No.
Oh, you're switching. Okay, I was like. I've seen people make this error who like are great writers otherwise. I cannot understand for the life of me how people make this error. Okay, ready for it?
It's a very nice one.
I did not make that mistake. I know.
Yeah? Okay, right. So what's the mistake?
I remember your rant.
Yes.
Men is
Yes.
plural, but
Okay.
man is one.
Women is plural. Woman is singular. Okay.
I know it, but I hope I didn't.
Yes. Now let me go on my rant, okay? My rant is, would you ever say my dad is a nice man? No, it's clear it's supposed to be man. So why don't you realize you're writing women when you're only talking about one of them? Furthermore, you are women. You should know how to spell what you are. How embarrassing would it be if I said I am a teacher or I'm a rabbi, right? You should know what you are and be able to spell it. And it's like one of the first words that you learn as like a first grader, a kindergartner, okay? Yeah, and here's the thing. This is the most embarrassing thing, right? Is like in the safety of a classroom, like all you're gonna get if you make this mistake is a rant from me, right? But if you made this mistake in like a college application letter, like it just makes you look like you don't know what you're doing, you know? So like, yeah. Anyway, okay, so I don't think we need to explain why this is wrong, right? Okay, so just beware. And I'm gonna say, and beware, I'm gonna get triggered whenever I see this, okay?
Oh yeah, you can't wait to do that about
yeah. Alrighty.
My sociology professor,
Yeah.
she was writing notes on the board and she wrote learn.
So that is a very common one. I have a feeling though, prediction, yeah, spelled you can't have on Pesach. All right, or sorry, you can't have, whatever. I meant it becomes common, but learned, I have a feeling is going to be one of those words that becomes accepted in the dictionary, even though it should be learned. Okay.
It's not a real word.
So I think it is an archaic word. I think it used to be used like in Old English, and then it went out of fashion, And then I think people use it now because they think that it's the actual past tense of learned. I think that's the case. Yeah, we'll have to look that up later. All right. So this homework today, I was not planning to give. I was going to do something else, but we're going to reverse the order. You're going to write an essay about women. No, no. So Mrs. A. Fader told me that you guys, some of you are writing term papers. Yeah? Okay. And she asked me if I could provide guidance for that. Now, I said I can't. And the reason why is because that's something we're going to work on later on in the year. And I can't simply like teach an entire chunk of my curriculum like right now, you know, out of order. So what I am going to do though is I think, first of all, how many of you are writing term papers? Okay, 3? You're starting. Not for a while? Okay, yeah. So all of you at some point in your life are going to be writing term papers, right? It's like a thing. It's like a genre, okay? Yeah. And I guess apparently you have not had experience with this in your English education until now. Yeah. I was telling Mrs. Fader before class. So I went to this crazy good school in Seattle for my education. So in 11th grade, okay, end of the first semester, I wrote a 40-page term paper. Okay, and I think the minimum was 30 pages, but it was a 40-page term paper. To this day, it's the biggest paper I've ever written, and none of us, I think, had experience writing papers like that. And there was actually, that was the semester, that was the midterm paper. There was another one that was for the final, and I actually got out of that one because I did a project instead. Yeah, but
write that much.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I honestly don't know the answer to either of those questions. Yeah. I know, right? Yeah. So I can tell you that it was a good experience, and like it is intimidating. I mean, what you're doing is also intimidating, just not as intimidating, probably.
Like 5 to 7 pages.
Yeah, yeah. So here's the thing. So I cannot. Obviously, I'm going to be teaching you how to write in general this year, but like. The reason why I can't teach you specifically about term papers, other than the fact that we're going to do stuff later on, so term paper is essentially a synthesis paper, which is what we're going to work on in the spring. But the reason why I can't tell you is, number one, each teacher who assigns a term paper has their own specific ideas of what they're looking for and what they think qualifies like as legit and not legit. Okay, so I can't rely on what I've learned about it to teach you without you checking to make sure that that this is in line with what your teacher wants. Secondly, unfortunately, a lot of what we AP English teachers do is try to help students unlearn all of the bad habits that have been taught in English classes in America for a long time. So for example, you know, I'm going to try to break you of the habit of the 5-paragraph essay. I'm going to try to break you of the habit of not using first person. I'm going to try to break you of the habit of like, you know, using like a bunch of stuff like that. And I feel like if I taught you what I thought a term paper should be, it might clash horribly with what your professors expect. Okay. So what we're going to do is this. This one is going to be due on Friday before sundown. Okay. Yeah.
What's Friday?
Friday is Shabbos. Oh, I mean, what? No, I thought you meant like why Friday. I thought you meant why Friday. Yeah. Oh, sorry. This is I forgot to change the date. It's not Monday today, right? It's the 23rd, right? Yeah. So what you're gonna do is like this. It's the subject title of the email is going to be called Term Paper Help. Okay. You're gonna write a real, if you're actually in a situation, or mock email. Okay. Which meets the following SOAPs criteria. Okay. Subject is a request for help, clarifications, or resources to aid you in writing your term paper. The occasion is your feeling of inadequacy, real or imagined, for the task. Okay, either you actually feel like you don't know how to do it, or you just think you don't know how to do it. Your immediate audience will be your professor. So if this is if you're actually in this situation now, write it to your professor. Don't send it yet. Okay, write it to your professor. And if you're not in the situation, then imagine a professor who assigned a term paper and then treat it as a creative writing assignment. And your immediate audience obviously is me. Purpose is to solicit help from your professor.
Help you like write it?
That's going to be your decision. Okay, meaning I was just told by Mrs. Fader that a lot of you feel like you are intimidated by the assignment. So I don't know if that means that you don't know what the expectations are, or if it means you don't know where to start, or if it means that you don't know like how to do a bibliography, or if it means you don't know how to like do research or what kind of sources, whatever it is you feel you need help on. Okay. The speaker is going to be yourself, but the persona, you're going to have to choose the persona that is going to be the most rhetorically effective. For example, like, you know, I don't know how many of your teachers know the situation that you were in, that you're coming to class in. For example, maybe they don't know that you didn't have 12th grade, in which most people write term papers. So maybe putting that up or saying that you are, you know, you're 1 year behind your classmates in English is part of the persona you're going to try to craft. Maybe it's the fact that, like, you know, if you feel like you're a weak English student, maybe that's going to be part of the persona that you're going to craft. Maybe, I don't know if your class is one with 20 people or 200 people, like that's going to affect.
Try 4.
4, okay, yeah, right. No, so right, so 4 is a big difference than 20 also, right? So like that might have to be taken into account. So you're gonna write this, and then reason why I wanted to, so what I was gonna have you do, which I'm actually glad that this came up, I was gonna have you actually do a first draft of your first rhetorical analysis paper, and I was gonna get feedback on that, but instead we're gonna swap them. You're gonna do this, and then I'm gonna give feedback on your letter. And if you are actually in a position where you have a college professor, I'll give you feedback, and you can then actually send the email to your professor. So those of you who are in the situation, I want you to write it like as a real email. And what I'll do is, by giving feedback, I'll familiarize you with my system of feedback, so that by the time you get your first rhetorical analysis, it won't be new, like, oh, how Rubbish always gives feedback. Okay, so that's and the only reason I'm having it being due on Friday instead of being due on Wednesday is because I need some time to like read it over and critique it. Okay. And like Yom Kippur is going to like knock out 2 days, you know, effectively.
For the people who are making up stuff, you're writing like a fake letter saying you need help with stuff.
Yeah, like put yourself in the shoes of your classmates right now and pretend that you're in college and that you got this like assignment, this term paper assignment, and you feel lost. Okay, or just ask one of your friends like to show them the assignment that they were given. You know, yeah. So it'll be an exercise in imagination for those of you who aren't in this situation. Okay.
Emails, like I feel that I write pretty like professional emails.
Yeah.
Is there any way to like sound more professional?
So this will be part.
I'm sending like 30 emails.
Okay, good point. Actually, I forgot to write tone on here. The tone will be appropriate tone for the email, and you're gonna have to decide like what tone is appropriate to strike. Okay, like that's gonna be a decision that you're gonna have to make. And look, you know, not that I am judging. And when you said there's 4 people in your class,
Yeah.
Is that at Turo?
Yeah.
So Turo professors in small classes, I feel like is very different than, say, Macaulay in Queens in terms of the way that professors relate to students and the fact that they're Jews and all that stuff. So that can affect your tone also, you know? So go for the tone that you think is appropriate, and like that'll be part of what we work on, okay? All right, any questions on this assignment?
Yeah, actually.
You don't have to send it.
It's appropriate for me to do that until I actually put in effort.
Sure, you don't have to send it.
Are you sending a letter?
But what I do want you to do, Eliana,
Now, like I was interested in general advice, like that's what I told you. Like,
Yeah.
General advice.
Yeah.
Like, specifics.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to make you send it. That'll be your decision. But I do want you, if you are in a position with a professor, I do want you to write with a particular person in mind. Like I don't want you to do an imaginative exercise.
Yeah,
you know, yeah. And you'll find actually that it's much easier for you guys who are in this position than people who are imagining professors, just because like an imagined professor could be like anything. Or if it helps, you know, you could write to me and pretend that I assigned you a term paper, or write to Mrs. Board, or write to like some actual English teacher that you know. Okay.
Would it be like about a college essay?
Yeah, college essay. Oh, you know what? That's actually yeah, sure. I guess for if you're in that situation, then yeah. Okay. Alrighty. Let's talk about the homework from last night.
My favorite person.
Yeah. So first of all, we're not gonna watch it again in class. Yeah. I was gonna actually ask you. I did not, when I was planning the assignment, I did not think about the fact that a lot of you would be watching it on the fast day. Yeah. So first of all, subjective reactions to the video.
I really liked it. I thought like I was taking notes. I'm not obviously.
Yeah. You say you did like it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought.
It made the assignment like fun.
Yeah. I thought it was surprisingly interesting, and that's why I said like watch the first like 10 minutes, but like maybe watch the whole thing. Yeah.
I would watch.
Yeah, and also I had never seen anything like this before.
She was so deep.
You got bored? Yeah.
I watched it going.
Oh, okay, that helps also. Yeah.
Next time any of us
Yeah.
eat ice cream.
I know. I know.
Yeah. So I want to show you. I'm not gonna go through examples of for all of the 3 mini assignments, but I want to go through an example of the type of thing I'm looking for in these assignments. So this is I asked Eliana for permission to share hers. So this is Eliana's analysis. Okay, do you want to read it or do you want me to read it? Okay, Jenny Britton Bauer utilizes character-based appeals in persuading her audience to rely on her ice cream tasting credentials. She has automatic ethos by being introduced as an ice cream expert. And she proves her intrinsic ethos through her vast knowledge of ice cream terminology and her repeated ability to differentiate between expensive and inexpensive ice creams. So that's a good thesis statement, by the way, okay, even though she wasn't writing a full essay. Extrinsically, the background and her appearance also support her credible persona as an ice cream expert. Behind her, there's a blackboard with chalk drawings of ice cream in cones and cups. Bauer wears summery ice cream-like colors. Funny, by the way, this is another, this is the correct version of a pet peeve of mine, is I hate it when people spell the word summary this way. This is the real use of summary, which means like summer, right? But people spell like, I'm summarizing like summary, you know? Yeah, ice cream-like colors and dons a puffy sleeve shirt with an apron on top. Even her hair is tinged in a frosty pink. She certainly looks the part. And that reminded me of the most popular YouTube comment on this video, which I thought was hilarious. I didn't know how an ice cream expert would look like, but she definitely looks like one. Right, she looks like you guys ever play Candyland when you were a kid?
Yeah.
Right, she looks like a person from Candyland, you know? Yeah. Bauer successfully demonstrates all three essential components of ethos: good character, goodwill, and good sense. She demonstrates good character and trustworthiness through her likable presentation and lack of snobbery. Okay, thought that was a really good, right, she comes across as very like humble and personable, down to earth, not like you would expect an expert. Like when you imagine like a wine expert or a cheese expert, it's like, yeah. Right. Her method of analyzing ice creams, this is also, yeah, her method of analyzing ice creams without being aware of their brands or prices suggests that she's being objective in her descriptions and analysis of different ice creams. This method also demonstrates her goodwill to her audience. She has her viewers' best interests in mind in advising them how to choose a good ice cream and gives them permission to appreciate a less expensive brand if they like some of its no-frill features. Bauer also demonstrates good sense through her credibility. She shows that she knows what she is talking about through her usage and explanations of complex and professional terms related to the ice cream industry, such as high overrun and air content, which I don't know, I also reacted to that of like, oh, she's using all these like categories that I know what she's talking about, but I never had a word for it, you know? And her by knowledge of different forms of cocoa and percents of butterfat. Bauer proves herself to be trustworthy, experienced, and credible when it comes to ice cream. Okay, good. Yeah. Round of applause. Yeah. So you will all learn to analyze this, and it is, some things are going to be easier when you can relate to it. Like I think it's easier to do in a video or an ad, whereas if it's a speech that's given in a rhetorical situation you're not familiar with, like loose, like the thing that we did, it's a little bit more difficult. But this is a very thorough. You notice how she took each component of ethos, and I think when you start off, use the rhetorical toolbox handouts that I give you. Like if you're writing about ethos, like she basically wrote like a sentence about each aspect of ethos. Now you're not always going to find that. Like maybe a person's good character will not come through in what they write, but if you just follow the tools I give you, that will give you a good start. And then you'll be able to be more free about it. I don't know if I've ever quoted this to you in another context, but one of my favorite Bruce Lee statements, he said the 3 stages of learning on any art or skill is learn the rules, master the rules, dissolve the rules. Dissolve. Okay, which means that when you first learn something, let's take let's take an actual art, let's say like a painting or let's say music, you know? So your first stage is there are certain rules for what you're supposed to do and not supposed to do. And you have to first learn those, right? Just familiarize yourself with them. Then you have to master them and like do them perfectly. And then what do the real masters do? They make their own rules, but they don't start off by making their own rules. They learn the tried and true rules and they perfect them. And then they get to the point where they can dissolve them and like break outside of them and do what they want. So what we're doing now is I'm going to show you each part of rhetorical analysis and have handouts that help you know what like the rules are. You're going to master them and then you'll be able to start writing and thinking on your own free beyond those bounds. Okay. All right. We're not going to read examples for the other ones also. So pathos focus. First of all, I'm just a show of hands. How many of you had seen this exact video before? One? Only one? Okay. Every year I want to know.
My mom literally listens to this at least like once a week.
Okay, yeah, right. Because this was the most popular YouTube video of the year 2009. Okay, I don't know if you saw how many views it had now, 245 million. Yeah, I guess we got to learn a lesson about what type of sticky stuff to use. Yeah. And I tried to acknowledge this in the assignment itself that some people, back then, this was not cheesy. How many of you found it cheesy? Some of you wrote that it was a little cheesy. No? Okay, good. Oh, yeah. 'Cause I still think it's moving, but now what happens is like they try to create moments like this, you know? And back then that was still relatively new, you know? And so now it feels like they're like going for it and like milking it for all it's worth, but back then it was like very genuine. Yeah. And what I liked about what a lot of you, I think this was the greatest success rate in the class in terms of the analysis. What I liked about is you named the emotions, right? You named the emotions that the audience was feeling of like certain like judgmental haughtiness and then like.
So exciting.
Yeah, it is. What'll happen next? Oh, that one was put up again? Come on.
It's like what a building.
Well, you know, these fish are happy. It is.
I know. Why do we ever cover
I
them?
know.
So sad. I'm taking them off.
Yeah. Whenever you're analyzing pathos, here's a tip, and I'm going to put this on. I'll have a pathos sheet later on at some point. Name what emotion is being triggered, how it's being triggered, and why it's being triggered. Okay. Now, in this video, you can't really do the why because it was all spontaneous. But in analyzing a speech or in analyzing writing, when the author is consciously trying to manipulate your emotions, those are the three things. What emotion are they trying to trigger? How are they doing it? Like, is it their words? Is it their tone? Is it, you know, and then why are they doing it? Like, what's their goal in doing it? To a certain extent, yes, right. But I'm saying, like, I think a lot of this was, like, in other words, I don't know how much she crafted this exact persona and then pulled the switcheroo, you know, when she went out there.
I was thinking that she was purposely doing it, but it could just be because nowadays people do that.
Yeah, I thought.
Saying it. No, but you and your questions are saying that she
Did I?
I thought I had to
Oh,
say it.
no,
You said nowadays.
Yeah.
Like they craft.
I thought, I mean, I maybe again, I don't really know her. I didn't follow her career or anything. I thought that she was actually like, this was her first time doing anything like this, and she was just
Really?
like one of the, yeah.
It's so weird because I feel like when I watched it, I thought she was gonna be amazing from the start. I don't know.
Yeah, because you've grown up in a world where things like this happen all the time, and like,
Yeah.
and that was again, it was
Like,
new
why
then.
would you be there if
Yeah.
it's not there?
When you said 2009, like nowadays, I didn't realize 2009 was that long.
I know, it's crazy, right? 11 years ago. Yeah. And by the way, this is a side tip for rhetorical analysis. Knowing the year is very important in terms of the occasion, the context, the exigence, because depending on what year it was or what was normal back then, the audience is going to have different expectations. The speaker is going to have different assumptions, you know. All right, so I don't think there's anything else to say on this or questions on this. I think this was the most straightforward one. Okay, now, countdown, okay? First of all, subjectively, what did you think, what did you think on a subjective level about the painting?
Global warming.
Right, yeah, subjectively, that's the objective, was it?
I thought it was really cool and interesting how she.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, okay, good. And how quickly did it take you to get that this was about global warming?
I wasn't
Yeah.
sure if he wanted us to say straight out, so I was just like.
Yeah, didn't I ask, I tried to give you guiding questions.
Yeah, but those are all the questions from the logo sheet that you gave us.
Yeah, yes, this is the logos exercise, yeah, right. But then, do anyone remember offhand what the questions were? It was like, what is
What's
the,
the purpose? What's the argument that she's
Yeah.
trying to, what are the claims that she's making?
Yeah.
And
Oh,
so isn't that me asking, Emily, so isn't that me asking for, like, what made you assume that I was not wanting you to say what it was about?
Because maybe I was wrong. And
Oh, so you're okay. All right. So it was more insecurity about your own answers. No, I'm sorry, not insecure. 'Cause I thought you were saying I was being unclear in the assignment. It was clear to everyone else, though, that I was asking for what is she trying to say, right? Now, several of you pointed out that her argument is very clear, right? Namely that, like, what's her main argument here?
Ignore.
You need to take action or else you're going to, right, it's going to be destroyed. Yeah. And one of you wrote a good point about, which no one has ever written in this assignment before, that we get the imagery of the hourglass that, that it's dripping down and that time is running out. But one of you wrote that the implication is you can turn an hourglass back upside down again and reverse the trend.
Oh, that's
Who wrote that?
But I don't know if I wrote it.
I forgot who wrote it,
Nature-
but I was like, oh, that's a good point. Now, here's the great thing, okay? Two of you pointed out that she does not bring evidence for this, right?
There's no data at all.
So she's not bringing the type of evidence that this would warrant, which is scientific evidence, right? She is making a claim and an argument, but not backing it up with data and evidence. Now, the point of an art piece is not to bring evidence, but that step is crucial. And the reason why I wanted to give you this visual text for the logos exercise is, number one, to realize that a person can be making an argument and making claims without evidence. And number two, to realize logos is not exclusively synonymous with data and evidence. Much of the main part of logos is what argument or claim are they making, and then you evaluate that in light of the evidence that they bring. So here, the purpose of an art piece is not to bring evidence. If she was giving a lecture, at a college, then obviously she would be expected to give evidence. Yeah. Okay. Anything else about this? All right, so in the remaining time, we were in the middle of of looking through the student samples and familiarizing ourselves with the rubric last time. So take out the prompt and the rubric I gave you, and then for those who weren't here last time, Adina and Ayala, let me give you the printout.
Yeah, I just didn't.
Yeah, so here is the student samples, and here you go. And then
Number 2, right?
What was the good handwriting?
we did, yeah, hold on a second here. Here's the rubric. Rubric. Oops, sorry. And then if you, I don't know if you printed out,
Yeah, I mean, I printed out.
you need the prompt?
Oh, yeah, I like this one
Okay.
a lot.
You guys already read it?
No, handwriting.
Oh.
All right, so last time we did the, so just quick overview of the rubric one time, just to refresh our memory. So middle is mediocre, uneven, limited. Level up is adequate. Level up is effective. Level below is inadequate. Level below is low success. These are the main features of the rubric. If it's better than an 8, if it's better than an 8, then it's a 9. If it's better than a 6, it's a 7. If it's inferior to a 4, it's 3. And if it's inferior to a 2, it's 1. Okay, so we'll get this in our minds later. Yeah, Eliana?
Or do you need to get past anyway?
It's everything changed this year anyway, so it's moot, right? Because they changed the rubric. It used to be, so, all right, this is kind of like academic, so I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on it. The original AP, 45% of your overall, so APs are 1 through 5, right? 45% of your score was calculated based on the multiple choice, 55% based on the essays. And if you divide 55 by 3, you get a number that I don't know. But like, it's like what, 7, no, I was gonna say 17, but that's not right.
25 and 3 is, yeah, it's about 17.
It is? Okay, yeah, those are,
18%.
yeah,
18 and a little more.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, right. So, so it really depended, like, on, you're doing 3 of these essays on the 1 through 9 scale, and you're doing the multiple choice. And so every year the calculations were slightly different. So like, it all depends on how well you do on the multiple choice and like how much you can afford to do poorly on this and vice versa. But now it's all different anyway. All right. So we went through the 9 essay, which was very good. We read through the 1 essay, but we didn't read their comments, right? I think we talked about it. So the comments that the College Board had was, this essay is especially simplistic and very weak. Control in its control language. Yeah, I think there's a word missing here. All right, the writer appropriates, loses text as his or her own for the most of the essay. In paragraph 3, the point regarding truth is poorly interpreted. Paragraph 2 mentions the contrast between wrong and right and good and bad, but the significance of this is not developed. The simplistic misreading of sources leads to an inaccurate thesis. Yeah, fine. So we all notice these things. All right, now let's read a 6 essay, okay? So this is sample B, which is on page, I don't know, B.
Given by.
Oh, you know what? Oh, here we go. Yeah. Yeah, you'll see it. It's like halfway through the pamphlet. What do you say, Alicia?
I was like, is it the one that's not supposed to be given by? Or is that?
I don't think so.
Well,
Right.
I say B.
On the top right, should say B1.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I see P1.
Okay.
There's Claire Booth.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to read this. Now, as we read this, keep your eye out for what is the student doing well and what is the student doing poorly, okay? Or what are they understanding, what are they misunderstanding? Claire Booth Luce crafts the introduction of her speech to the journalists at the Women's National Press in 1960 in a very calculated manner. Luce submits not only her audience to criticism, but herself, all the while reminding the journalists that it is on their request that she is delivering a speech. Luce first acknowledges that by delivering her critique, she will be subjected to criticism herself. For she remarks, for the banquet speaker who criticizes the weaknesses and pretensions or exposes, thank you, the faults and sins of her listeners, even at their invitation, does not generally evoke an enthusiastic, no less a friendly response. Luce emphasizes the difficulty of her position, and in doing so, she warns the audience of their criticism of the criticism that is coming, and to keep their immediate backlash in check. Okay, so already, can you notice anything about? I mean, I know this is only your first rhetorical analysis essay, but any observations on this paragraph about what they're doing well or what they're doing poorly? Okay, so this is a trick question. Okay, is quoting good or bad?
Well, she quoted a lot of text.
She quoted a lot of text as opposed to explaining it, right? Now, this is probably something you've encountered in English classes before, right? Is that you have to, certainly bringing evidence from the text is good, but it's on you to explain it. You can't just let the author speak for themselves, because the whole point of this is we are supposed to be rhetorically analyzing. So really, the shorter the quotations, the better, and the more the explanation, the better. Okay, and if you looked, I mean, you don't have to look back now, but the quotations used in that first 9 essay were very short, and most of it was an actual explanation. Okay, after stating the difficulty of delivering a controversial speech, Luce cleverly proceeds to place the responsibility on the audience. She pointedly reminds the audience from a, I am not a volunteer for this subject tonight. You asked for it. This way, when the audience takes offense in her message, they can only blame themselves, for they are the reason for her presence. Luce further sets up the journalists for her incoming attacks by reminding them of the basic values of their occupation. She says that there is no audience anywhere who should be more bored, indeed more revolted, by a speaker who tried to fawn on it, butter it up, exaggerate its virtues, play down its faults, and who could more quickly see through any attempt to do so. Again, another extremely long quotation, right? And here's the other thing also, by the way. When you are writing to me or you're writing on the AP, assume that your reader has already read the text. Okay, your job is not to like walk them through the text. Okay, you're.
Are we supposed to like Mrs. Ward? Like all our teachers always tell us that when we write something, we're supposed to explain it. Like when you write an essay,
That's a
it's
literary
It reminds me of like a literary analysis.
Yes. So the closest thing I think genre you've done to this is literary analysis, and I don't know if this is an actual difference between what you've been asked to do and what I'm going to be asking you to do, but the constant mantra here is analyze, don't summarize. Okay, the only reason you should summarize is if it's part of your analysis. For example, like if you need to set up your take on what was being said in a way to like then go and analyze it, then summary is okay. But assume that your reader has read the text. Okay. Okay. So Luce compliments these journalists in their valiant pursuit of the cold hard truth, and that is exactly what she intends to deliver. Now, what do you say about that sentence?
Properly worded.
You have a good point.
You think it's a good point? Okay.
The author doesn't back it up. Like they don't say why they deliver that.
Yes. Okay, good. So this is a perfect example of what I just said. This is a summary, and in that sense, it's a good point. But the student is not analyzing, right? Let's just read it again. Luce compliments these journalists on their valiant pursuit of the cold hard truth. So you could call complimenting like a first step in analysis.
Shouldn't you talk
Right.
about ethos? Like, like those are, it's a rhetorical analysis.
Right. So where do you think complement fits in terms of the three appeals? Ethos, pathos, or logos?
Pathos.
Yeah, pathos, right? So you would expect her to say, well, what emotion does this, like what emotional effect does this have on the audience, and why does she want to bring that up? That would be analysis. But instead she just says, Luce compliments these journalists on their valiant pursuit of the cold hard truth, and that is exactly what she intends to deliver. Okay, great. So she spoke about,
And so, like, this is not elaborated.
yeah, it's falling short in its analysis, right? So, and this is why this is like, to me, also the College Board, this is a classic example of a 6. They are analyzing, but the analysis is only adequate, not effective. Okay. Luce finishes her introduction with a compliment to the U.S. press, which indicates the high regard to which she holds the profession of journalism. This way, Luce does not present herself entirely as an enemy to her audience. Now that is analysis, right? That's talking about how is she trying to present herself? Is this ethos, pathos, or logos? I think it's ethos. Why do you say ethos, Emily?
Because she's pretending her good, her character, no way.
Yeah, right? It's about how she's presenting herself. I am not an enemy, right? I am a friend. Now, Ayala said pathos. This does have an effect in pathos as well, because if she's an enemy, then they won't want to listen, or they'll object. Whereas if she's a friend, then she's not. But she's stating this in ethos terms, right? Or the student is analyzing how she's portraying her own character, right? All right, so then, okay, instead she ensures that the audience is conscious that they asked for the coming criticism, and though she does not necessarily want to, Luce will comply and deliver them their coveted truth. Due to her ingenious delivery, the audience is prepared to listen openly to Luce's critique and attempt to set aside their initial hatred or heated reactions with the with the notion that she is delivering the truth on their behalf. Yeah. Okay.
I feel like this repeated her
This was, yeah. Now, it's okay to repeat your initial point in the conclusion because you're summarizing, really. But yeah, it does. Aspects of this feel a little repetitive. Like, you got the sense when you're reading the 9 essay, she's making, or I'll just say she, because whatever. We don't know if it was we don't know the gender of the student. But you felt like she was making lots and lots of points in the 9 essay. Here, it's like a few points, not going into depth. Okay, so let's see what College Board had to say about this. Controlled throughout, this essay presents an adequately developed analysis emphasizing the centrality of journalists as truth tellers. The writer highlights how Luce emphasizes the difficulty of her position, identifying her rhetorical purpose for doing so. She warns the audience of the criticism that is coming to keep their immediate backlash in check. Now, that's an example of saying, what is the author doing and why? And that's a full analysis. The essay notes how Luce pointedly reminds the audience they are responsible for her presence and therefore the critique she's about to deliver. The essay appropriately identifies Luce's choices and is able to support its analysis with appropriate evidence and explanation. So again, there was nothing wrong with the things she was quoting. She was quoting things to support a point. She just wasn't analyzing or explaining it thoroughly and quoting more of it than she needed to. Fairly extensive use of quoted text may have prevented the student from providing a fuller explanation. And I think what that meant is, remember, in a time pressure also. Yeah, she was spending, like, if you took the percentages of her essay that were quotations, she was just writing a lot that was just direct quotes. Yeah. Yeah.
How are you defining adequate? Like her adequately developed analysis.
So adequate is, in the rubric, they give you some of the, so,
They call it adequate. They don't define adequate.
well, they do in the rubric. They develop their analysis with evidence and explanations that are appropriate and sufficient. So appropriate means that it is on target, but sufficient does not mean convincing. So sufficient means that, okay, fine, like I hear why you're saying what you're saying, but you don't necessarily have me convinced. And then referring to the passage explicitly or implicitly, the writing may contain lapses in diction or syntax, but generally the prose is clear. So those are the guidelines for the adequate. But again, this is what I like about the holistic rubric, that you will develop a sense of what we mean by adequate as you go. Okay. And that's why it's important for us to go through examples. Yeah, Ayala, do you have a question?
Yeah, are you supposed to use rhetorical appeals in our rhetorical analysis in writing one?
Are you supposed to mention them, you mean, explicitly? No. Or are you as a writer supposed to use them? So technically speaking, a rhetorical analysis is all logos. Okay. In an argument essay, then you are expected to use all the appeals because you're trying to convince your reader on the basis of ethos, pathos, and logos. But here you're just trying to convince them on the strength of your analysis. Yeah, it's a good question though. Okay, now let's do an ineffective ineffective one. Okay, this is inadequate. I mean, not ineffective. Sample G. Okay, so you know what? We're almost. Is this short?
No, and the
Oh, it's actually very long. Oh, not very long. Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's just start reading part of it. Okay. Clear Booth Luce seems to be a passionate journalist who wants to hear the truth and for the press to tell it. Luce uses persuasive rhetoric to influence her listeners to be honest with the American people. Right away, very lacking thesis because guess who else uses persuasive rhetoric?
Everyone.
Everyone, right? So this is not a good thesis because it's not actually talking about her rhetorical choices. Luce starts her speech by telling audience she is honored to be there, as many do before a speech, in order to tell the audience she wants to talk to them and that she's ready to give her points. So far not saying anything. Luce then says, I'm less happy than you might think and more challenged than you could ever know. Saying this lets us know that she is about to point out a weakness or a flaw that is bothering her. She says that she is a rock thrower to the press, referencing the late BCs and early ADs, how adulterers and sinners would be shamed and beat with rocks being thrown at them. This makes a metaphor for how she is about to reveal and shame the press's weaknesses. So this is misidentifying a rhetorical device. I mean, she is using a metaphor, but like, I mean, I guess maybe it's not misidentifying, maybe that's too strong. But kind of talking about the rhetorical device in the vaguest of terms, not why she chose to use this. I mean, it's like a very surface level analysis here.
But I feel like you could have made a good point out of her, her saying that she. Hold on.
Yeah, you could have used that.
Yeah, exactly. Lou says that there is no audience who should be more revolted at a speaker buttering them up because as journalists, they should want the truth instead of to find praise. She says, not the press's job is to, okay, all right, class is over. All right, so you got the idea, and we'll familiarize ourselves with the rubric more as we go, okay? Hopefully this just gives you some idea to start with. All right, break for 4 minutes, okay, till 11:42.